An adventure is defined as any activity with an uncertain outcome. Character is defined as something that sets an individual apart from others. We strongly believe that our character is defined by the adventures we take on our journey of life. Through the stories of others, we hope to inspire you to embark on a new adventure. Through the Character Mill community, we hope to make that adventure possible. Character Talks features amazing people with powerful stories of incredible adventures that have shaped their very character. This is Character Talks.
And wade through the stream or maybe run through the river, even though you may get just a little bit wet. A bum bum sheeto, a bum bum sheeto. Wow, 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 wow. This is life. This is life.
In episode number 2 of Character Talks, we travel to Colorado to speak with a longtime friend of mine, May Jackson. I first met May when she walked into my bike shop on the coast of Maine, eager to try mountain biking but having no idea what she was about to get herself into. Years later, she's still ripping it up on her bike and now dropping incredible lines in the backcountry of Vail on her snowboard. Like many young people who decide to drive across the country to a strange new place and start a new adventure, May was nervous, scared, but determined to make it work. Now, years later, we look back on that adventure. When I asked May what character trait would best describe her because of this adventure, she chose grit, and I could not agree more.
Yeah, so away we go, and shit, this is like episode number 2. I'm so stoked that we're actually getting this going. And
Episode 2.
And so with me now is May Jackson, and I have known May for a long time, as I mentioned earlier. So welcome, May.
Hi.
Coming all the way from where?
Minturn, Colorado right now.
Nice. And we were just talking how you had just come down off the mountain skiing. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I went out snowshoeing with one of my coworkers, got to take her out and show her a really great spot, and chose it because it's kind of vacant and there weren't many people out, but turns out there were some people hiking up Mount Arkansas over in Leadville and dropping a really awesome big couloir off of that peak. So
I've seen some of the pictures that you've posted in the Character Mill app of some of the places that you were hiking up to, which is, I'm jealous. I miss, as you know, I spent a little time spent 1 year in Telluride and 5 years in Winter Park.
I love Telluride. Winter Park I've done a little bit, but haven't really explored the town in the area, but Telluride is gorgeous.
Yeah, Telluride. I was there when the whole Telluride village was just someone's thought on paper.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This being kind of the first real podcast, I guess we say episode 2 because I interviewed myself in episode 1.
That totally counts too.
I was not a great host or guest, but I made it work. And one of the things that you and I talked about and kind of prepped for this was the idea of asking the question of who am I? And I think that's an important question to ask that you have to ask yourself, not me asking who are you, because sometimes that initial question, as we talked about, may not be completely authentic. Where if you say, who am I? And you have that conversation with yourself, I think there's a much better chance of the answers being more true. I guess authentic. I want to keep coming back to it because authentic is the word that I use for these podcasts. So sounds like you've done that because you've given me kind of your character word, which we'll get into in a second. But in your mind, kind of I'll ask, who are you? Hopefully we'll get somewhat of the same answer that you told yourself. Kind of who are you and what makes May?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, how do you consider yourself? What do you think are some of your values? And then at that point, we'll kind of dive into the one specific character word that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, when you really sit down and you ask yourself that question of like, who am I? It's kind of I mean, it's completely all encompassing because you can't really lie to yourself on that. Like you have to take the good with the bad, and you know, some of your good traits are also some of your bad traits. Like I've always been a like very passionate person about no matter what I'm doing. Like it's a passionate about an activity or just what I'm doing. Sometimes I end up getting myself lost in that, but I also love being like creative and thinking outside the box. But along with that, like sometimes I start delving into that stuff and then I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I? But you know, like it's a hard question, and to explain it out loud is really difficult. It's, you know, I'm smart, but I don't always act smart, which is frustrating. I'm caring, but I don't always share it or show it. Definitely, I've got a lot of resiliency. A lot of things have happened in my life that, you know, could possibly keep me from being where I am today, being here. But with that resiliency, like I've created a toughness that I think has really helped keep me going. I love the outdoors. Adventuring is probably one of my biggest passions. You know, like if I were to try to describe myself in like words, I don't know, this happy, generally happy, kind of outgoing, extremely introverted yet, girl who loves to snowboard and explore and smile and laugh.
Let me ask. Let me jump in and ask. Would you have said those same words, and would you have, if I had asked this question 15 years ago, would I have gotten a similar answer, or is it some of these things have kind of evolved over the last 15 years to who you are now, or have you feel like you've kind of been the same type of person all the way through?
I've definitely developed a lot of these characteristics. At 25, I wasn't snowboarding. I was definitely like, would have been more of a mountain biker. And I was working in healthcare, so I probably would have used the word selfless a lot more. And I still think I am all those things as well, but they've kind of evolved. And as we all do, certain things become more attuned, some things become more important, some things kind of fall by the wayside, and some things you're like, oh, I am still that, but I kind of forgot it. I was probably actually even more driven at, 15 years ago, 20, would have been about, I can't even do the math right now. I would have been 19.
Let's just say 20.
15 years ago.
Yeah, 19, 20.
So I think at 19, I was really lost. I just finished my, freshman year of college. I hated the school I went to. I still really wanted to do school, but at that time I couldn't afford to do school. So I was definitely really lost and just trying to like figure out then how to deal with that and the financial loss of dropping out of school and having a freshman year of school that was very expensive.
Yeah, I mean so this leads us, because you mentioned 19 and lost, and this is why I think I wanted to do this podcast with you, because of all of the things that are going on in the world right now. I mean, of course, I have a senior in high school who I think for the first time ever yesterday commented, he's like, "Oh, I really wish I could go back to school." Never heard that from him, but he missed school. So he's kind of in a position where, although he knows where he's going next year and what he's doing, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that are lost, that are in that 19 to 23, and maybe they're just out of high school, or they finished their first year of college, and maybe college is not for them, or they're just graduating college and they're like, okay, now what?
Or we just all lost jobs. Like, I'm like, now what? Like, do I wait this out and go back to the service industry? Like, do I look at gaining new skills? Do I look at maybe going back into healthcare? Like,
yeah, I mean,
there's back in that state of not really knowing.
Yeah, but I think because of some of the decisions you made 8 years ago when you moved to Colorado, those decisions for you probably will become a little bit easier because there's so many memes and things going around on social media now that this is Mother Nature's way of basically offering us a reset.
Yeah.
Although I joked with someone that I'm like, I don't think Mother Nature's going to hit the reset button. I think she's going to hit the delete button.
I think she's kidding us into thinking she's resetting us, and
Right.
she's just going to be like, gone.
Yep. But, I think now is an opportunity for people that may be feeling that little bit of lost to say, wait a minute. Here's someone that just kind of made a decision and went to Colorado. So that gets us now then. So again, for folks that are just listening for the first time, kind of the idea behind the podcast are not someone's life story. They are more based around after the person has asked, after May has asked the question of who am I? And for me, it took meditation and really, I'm surprised kind of how quick it came, but I was able to kind of analyze that type of stuff. One question is that you take a look at what word would describe your character, and are there specific experiences or adventures that caused that character trait to come through?
Yeah.
I have posted some on social media. I've posted one about forgiveness. I've posted one about belief. So May, without further ado, what was the character word that you came up with about your
I
character?
came up with grit, and it took me a really long time to just come down to one word. But I really came to grit because it encompasses so many other characteristic traits that, like, when I really looked and kind of was trying to figure out where this word or what my word would be, I chose grit because it comes down to having so many of those words that I already mentioned kind of within it.
So in the Mayopedia, what does grit mean? And then if we can, give us kind of an example of an experience or something that's happened in your life that you think has enhanced that has given you that bit of character. But first, what is grit? What is grit to you?
So grit for me, it's kind of that determination, having the courage, resiliency, and the drive to just kind of move forward and with confidence. And it's not even always confidence. Like sometimes you're scared out of your absolute mind, but you know that you have to keep going. So, I came grit, like you're resilient, like somebody who's got grit. Like I think of like an old Western type person, like just, I've been reading the Dark Tower series. So Roland Deschain comes to my mind, as well as the kid in the movie or in the book, Jake. Like I relate to those characters and I see them as having a lot of grit, like not knowing what they're going to come against, but, persevering and pushing towards an end goal or even just making it to the next day. And I think a lot of people have a lot of grit, but they don't embrace it.
Yeah,
and I think it's an important characteristic to have or to foster.
I think, especially considering where we are in the new normal, people are going to have to. You
got to reach down and.
Yeah, that's again, I think why this podcast is so important, that we need to kind of get this out now, because there are going to be a lot of people that are feeling lost and so is there anything specific experience where that you think helped develop this kind of character part, this character trait of you?
So I think I've kind of always had a little bit of it. But I think there, like being a gymnast, and especially in the competitive world, like there's so much perfection and so much hard work that goes into that. But actually you're part of one of like my first, like when I kind of boil it back, everything down, like you're actually part of one of the first times I think I realized that I really possessed this. And that was, I don't know if you'll remember this, the first time you, me, and Carl, we took me out mountain biking at the Snow Bowl. It was, as Maine weather is, I think it was slightly damp. I was having a hard time, like just breathing and trying to keep up because I hadn't really, this is one of probably my first mountain bike rides ever. And like, I don't remember what trail it was, but we were heading up and then we were coming across the mountain and we hit a bridge. And as a lot of the bridges are, it was wet, it was mossy, and it was slick. And I fell. And it wasn't my first time falling, but I like fell and I ripped the side of my hand and I was bleeding. And like I got up, I mean, other than the cut, like I landed pretty hard, bike went flying, I went flying, and I ripped my hand open. So a little nerve-wracking. But you and Carl both like asked me immediately if I wanted to stop and head back. And I was like, I'm bleeding, but I'm fine. Like, I want to keep going. And I don't remember if it was you or Carl, but somebody gave me one of their gloves. And I tried to ride with the glove on, and my hand was bleeding enough that it like filled the glove with blood, and I couldn't hold on to the handlebar, that it was easier to keep riding without the glove on. So my hand wasn't sliding around inside a very large glove. With blood. And I kept going, and I just kind of remember like that really sticks out to me because like both you and Carl were like, oh, wow, like she's not going to give up. And I kind of realized that in myself, like I didn't want to give up. Like I wanted to keep going. And I kind of have felt that process repeat itself a lot since then in my life. Like I want to keep going. I want to keep trying new things. Like you're going to fall, but you can get up and keep going, even if it doesn't always make the most sense to do that.
Yeah, I think I remember. When you first said riding, I went, okay, maybe not. And then you mentioned falling in your hand, and now that's starting to trigger something. And I'm sitting here, and it is so cool how something what started out as fairly insignificant, just some people going out for a ride, but how something happened during that experience or adventure that helps shape kind of who you are. That is really the basis of the Character Mill, which is every day provides us an opportunity for a character building experience. And if you can go out on more adventures, you're going to have those experiences. So what you're describing is an absolute perfect example of why it's important to get outside and go on adventures, because you just never know when you're 30, almost 35, 34, and you get to look back and go, talk about an experience that, maybe thought was insignificant at the time. I fell on my mountain bike, blah, blah, blah. But now looking back going, wow, maybe that really did contribute to kind of who I.
And it kind of led into, like I really, some people would have, maybe then pushed mountain biking away, but I've never been one to push challenge away. Like I kind of embrace it. And I don't like, if things are easy, like I kind of get bored with them. So it made me want to initially just like get better and not be falling all the time. And then, I fell in love with the community as well, like because you guys were so supportive of me, no matter what my decision was when I fell, like you guys really showed me that support. So, that brings in the idea of, having a good support system around you is really important as well. And, not everyone's going to find the same support system, but like, I wanted to keep going. And then, like by being introduced to mountain biking and starting there, like, then I got into racing. And you helped me a lot with that. And, you know, like I loved that community of racing. I loved traveling and going and getting to ride like other places. But then that kind of led me to the opportunity of being like, I'd always wanted to learn to snowboard. And it was never allowed to because I was a competitive gymnast. So like, turns out Maine gets, we had a wicked nor'easter. I don't even remember what year it was anymore. But Maine Sport was still open, and I decided to just say, screw it. I'm like, I just got paid. I've got enough to cover my bills. I want to go get a snowboard. I've always wanted to learn. So I went over to Maine Sport, like what should have been, because I was living in Camden at that time, it should have been like maybe a 10-minute drive at most. I think it took me half an hour because it was snowing that hard and the roads were that bad that it took me half hour to drive from my little basement apartment in Camden over to Maine Sport, picked out boots, bindings, and a snowboard. And I called my parents and I was like, hey, take the snowmobile drag up and down the hill, because my parents have one of the best sledding hills I've ever seen. And I went there and I taught myself the basics in snowboarding and basically falling. And, you know, I fell a lot. Again, falling, like, it's not a bad thing. You can learn from it, and you can take those falls as being like, okay, I don't do that next time.
Right.
But that kind of led me into snowboarding, and which is now probably one of my biggest passions. Like, it's surpassed mountain biking, and I've loved mountain biking, but like, because of, you know, picking up mountain biking and learning that falling's okay and it happens, like, it kind of gave me the confidence to go get that snowboard and to just try it out.
Yeah, and that's you know, and you talking about grit, and I don't know if you've picked up on it, but both with the mountain biking and the snowboard, the comment that you told yourself was, "Screw it,
just go do it. Make a decision."
I fell. Well, screw it. I'm going to stay on my bike and I'm going to keep going. And then all of a sudden you were like, well, I think I want to snowboard. Well, screw it. And then I went and bought a snowboard. So
yeah, it's just making that decision. And I actually realized this 2 or 3 days ago. It was gorgeous out. I kind of had been lazy in the morning and it was starting to be like 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I was like, I need to go do something. And I was like, do I want to go down to Eagle and go trail running, or do I want to take my split board out and go split boarding? Like, what do I want to do? And I kept going back and forth, and I was like, just make a damn decision and just get out. Like, it doesn't matter which you do. You're gonna, in the end, you're gonna love both, but just go do something. Like, sitting there in that world of indecision, like, just go do something. Like, make a choice. Neither of them are gonna be wrong. Like, and even if it is the wrong decision, like, I ended up losing a part to my split board that day, not realizing it until the following day. And it's like, so what? I lost a piece to my snowboard. I can replace it. It made it frustrating for the following day. But I'm like, I just had to finally make a decision and go do it. And you know, like, grit is, to me, it's part of making that choice and just doing something. Like, whether it's the right choice or the wrong choice, like, make that decision.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key part, what you just said, whether it's the right or wrong. Don't get bogged down with analyzing whether it is the right or wrong. Just make the decision.
Just go do something. Like,
so,
you know.
Was that a similar approach to when you decided to go to Colorado?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I was in a place of deep frustration, like, with my jobs, because I was working in Bar Harbor, so up in Acadia National Park, and then down in southern Maine, so Portland. And I was kind of homeless. I was couch surfing on friends' couches up in Bar Harbor and working for Cadillac Mountain Sports, where I'd been passed over, I think at that point, for 3 different buyer's positions because I didn't have a college education. I didn't have a piece of paper that told me I was educated, though I was by far maybe somewhat in a better position than some of the buyers that they hired over me, but personal opinion there, doesn't really matter. And I was also working at Eastern Mountain Sports down in Portland, staying with my friend on his sailboat. And it was becoming fall, or no, it was getting into winter in the holiday season, and they hadn't decided whether they were going to bring me on full time. And so I was trying to figure out, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm essentially homeless. Like, I don't have a home base. Thankfully, like, I was able to stop halfway at my parents' house. And, you know, I was kind of living out of my car. And some of my friends around my birthday were like, hey, May, like, have you ever thought of, like, you love winter. Like, have you ever thought of, you know, you could come work with us at a ski resort out in Utah, which was Snowbird at the time. And I hadn't really ever thought of that, or like leaving Maine as an option, but like they said that. And what resonated with me in that was, I love winter. They like made me realize that I love winter. Like, I think winter is awesome. And so I looked at jobs in Utah and in Sandy, and none of the jobs really drew me in. And then I was like, well, I don't have to go there. Like, and I started looking, and I applied to jobs at Beaver Creek and Heavenly. And then purely based upon like rate of pay, and something that interested me or sounded like it could be an interesting job. And so I had another friend that I worked with at Cadillac Mountain Sports, Joe. He kind of was like, May, you need to, like, what's the worst that can happen? You fill out this application and they say no. And I was like, you're right. Like, what's the worst? The worst I can do is apply and not get it, and then nothing changes. But I got a phone call to set up my initial interview with Vail Resorts in Beaver Creek within 5 minutes of submitting my application, which was mind-blowing to me because I'd never gotten a call back that fast for any job. And then, you know, I think my time frame of like this being like, you know, something that might happen to being something that actually happened really quickly. Like, it was a less than 2 week process. Like, it may have been exactly 2 weeks from when I submitted that application to me being in my vehicle driving to Colorado with a job and not knowing where I'm gonna live. So it was kind of one of those, I got the job offer and it's like, why not take it? Jump in, take that risk. Like, I've got the tools in my backpack to make anything work. Like, just go. Mm-hmm. If it's the wrong decision, you can go home.
Right. I love the idea of don't ask why, ask why not.
Yeah.
Why not go? And as you and I talked about last time, the whole Gary Vee thing of just make a decision.
Yeah, just choose.
You don't know if it's ever going to be the right decision or wrong decision because, you know, you could have not gone and, you know, done something and thought it was right and then get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
You decided to make the choice to go, and, you know, you'll never know whether it was a wrong decision or right decision. The only wrong decisions are the ones that aren't made, I guess. But yeah. So, and of course, if I remember correctly, you went out to Colorado and, you know, you had all sorts of money and
I wish. Man, wouldn't it be different?
Dog, right? Pretty much.
I had a job when I moved out here and I had my car and I had maybe just enough gas money to get here. And my friend Joe, who encouraged me to go, gave me a check for $500. And he's like, you're never allowed to pay me back. He's like, but you have to use this money. He's like, you need to go. Like, you need to try this.
Shout out to Joe.
Yeah. Joe Moran, thank you. As well as the Gardners, the Gardner boys and Corey LaForge. Like, without their a little bit of encouragement, like, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So once again, that goes back to having really great people around me and around
Yeah.
to just kind of give you that little nudge of and that little bit of boost of confidence, because I think I had a fair amount of confidence-ish at that time. I'm also extremely fearful of everything, but I'm like, I like to just dive in, because what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to fall on my head, and I've fallen on my head enough.
Can I jump in on that support? Is that a support system? Have you had that always through your life? Or was it around the mountain biking or that type of thing where all of a sudden, wow, this is kind of because the mountain biking community is an amazing community.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
Realize the importance of having that type of person more in your life.
I don't know that I've always had it. I mean, I was really lucky growing up. Like, I feel like I was like the most freed, very like watched over, conserved child. Cause I got to grow up going like to the Common Ground Fair, and I was one of the fair kids. And to kind of explain that statement, like all of our parents worked at the fair and like knew each other. So like, but we were allowed to like run around and just wreak havoc doing whatever we wanted and just kind of be free doing whatever we wanted. But knowing like somewhere out there, there's a safety net that will kind of save you. But I think I kind of, I don't know that I always had super supportive people around me. Directly with gymnastics, there were people outside of like my team and stuff that were extremely supportive. And I think I kind of realized like you can choose who you can be around. And like, unfortunately, like I didn't always feel super supported through my gymnastics, but I loved it. I also loved the sport. And I got to meet a lot of really amazing people who are very supportive in it. So I kind of got to see that contrast there of like being around people who are really supportive versus like the toxicity of people who aren't supportive and are, maybe more judgmental or, just kind of more negative. And I don't really think that being negative is necessarily bad, because sometimes you need that to balance out like your wild, crazy ideas. Be like, whoa, like maybe half pump that brake, like stop and think about what you're doing before you just go dive headfirst into a cement pool.
Right. Yeah, because I think the reason I asked was I think we all know the importance of kind of surrounding yourselves with people that push you and support you, and but yet that is such a hard thing for some people to do. I have a couple of friends that I can say are some of my closest friends that I've not communicated with in years because they were not a great influence. I didn't have that support system. They weren't part of that positive outlook for me. And so I had to kind of cut them out of my life. But I think that's why I was asking, because that takes some grit to be able to take certain people and not necessarily cut them from your life, but maybe recognize that they're not providing.
They're not the best people to have in your life, definitely.
And that because of your grit, you've been able to kind of identify that support system better, which maybe has just enhanced your adventures.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely important to be able to like be like, oh, like, and it happens out here all the time because there are so many people from all different kinds of backgrounds. Like, I moved out here with nothing. There are people who come out here, right after, and I came out here, in like 6-7 years after, graduating high school, versus, a lot of people come out and do this, for a semester right after they're, right after high school, or, some people do it in the middle of college. So we've got people from all over, or you've the people, you've got the classic ski bum who moved here right after high school and was going to go to college, or like they were in college when they moved out here, and 35 years later, they're still here living the ski bum life. So there's people across all aspects. Like, I moved out here and realistically had nothing. Or very close to nothing, except a determination to want to be here. like, and to try it. And, some people, you get to meet all kinds of different people, and you can kind of pick and choose who you bring in, because we all have such crazy lives out here that, like, sometimes you meet somebody and you click really, really well with them, and you're like, oh my God, I want more. Like, I want to go on more adventures with you, or like snowboarding with you is like the best time ever. Like, it's nonstop laughs. Like, just every lap is good, even if the snow is crap. But you also like meet people and you're like, me, and I don't know if this is more like me, I'm really sensitive to people, but I like sometimes initially meet people and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yep, bye. Within like 10 minutes of meeting them, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm glad I met you. I don't want to be around you anymore.
Right. Yeah, our guts are very seldom wrong.
No, they're very seldom not, or I should say, the gut is very seldomly not wrong. Yeah, but it's sometimes it's really hard to tap into that, and I think, grit. To me, it's kind of guttural feeling, and like a guttural character. Like, you really have to like dig in, like. It's dirt to me, kind of like you dig in the dirt, like you're gonna find good dirt, you're gonna find bad dirt, but like it's all dirt, and you just like you have to dig through it to find it, or to find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that could also be with my landscape gardening background.
Right.
I relate a lot of things to dirt and plants.
Right. So there's a podcast that I listen to a lot, almost on it whenever there's an episode out, and one of the things that they ask at the end is if you could go back to your 19 or 20-year-old self, what would you tell yourself? And when I heard that, my first response was, I wouldn't tell myself anything, because that would then affect how I would have lived, perhaps affected how I would have lived my life. And I might not be in the position that I'm in now. And I like where I am now. I like all my failures, and I like all the things that I've gone through. So I want to ask that question of what would you tell yourself? But and the thing about the Character Talks, the podcast, is not, this isn't really an advice-driven podcast, because what works for you may not work for someone else. But what if there is that person that's male or female that is that 19, 20, or 23, and they are lost, like you've mentioned, a couple of times that you felt you were. What little bit of advice, or what would you? I don't even say advice. What would you tell them? Having been there to where you are now, what would you tell them?
I probably really wouldn't try to guide myself in any way. Like, overall, I'm really happy where I'm at. And even if I could go back and change things, it would be to finish school and to become a surgeon or doctor. And in that regards, like the field I wanted to get into, I'd probably still end up out here in Colorado. I don't know that some of the things would have happened where I would have been able to take that time to snowboard and stuff. But I think I would have tried to give myself a little bit more confidence. And at that time, I think in my life, like, failure was one of my biggest fears. And to just tell myself that, failing doesn't mean you did something wrong. Failing means you get to learn from what went wrong, so that way you can go back and make it better, or, do it differently. Like, you learn so much more from failing and doing things wrong than you do if you get it right the first time. So I'd probably go back and tell myself, like, it's okay to fail. Don't be afraid of failure. Be afraid of not making a choice.
Yeah, and then that just brings us a complete full circle all the way back to riding across a slippery bridge on a mountain bike and falling and failing. And getting up and then learning, like, well, I don't really want to do that again. So
Right. Like, how do I learn how to ride across a wet, mossy bridge and not fall? Which to this day, I still really don't like bridges.
Right. No, I don't think any of us do. I don't. Yeah.
But
especially Maine or on the coast of Maine. Bridges.
The riding, like mountain biking out here, I'm like, it's almost kind of boring.
Right.
I'm like, where are the wet roots and the rocks and the disgusting old wet mossy bridge that's going to take me out? Like, these trails are all like buff and smooth and mostly root free. I'm like, other than the climbs, and it's a lot of climbing.
A lot of climbing, and the air is a wee bit thinner there.
It's a lot.
Can you imagine if you came back now, having lived out there and entered one of the races back here, you'd be
so actually I moonlight race now.
Okay.
And I've only done one mountain bike race in Colorado since I moved out here. And it's just kind of our local town series. I got my ass kicked. But we've got the Leadville 100 that happens up here. So a 100-mile mountain bike race up in Leadville, Colorado, which is one of the highest incorporated towns in the US. And they have a race series where you can like qualify, but you essentially like get lotteried into this race. And it is my goal to do it at some point. But in regards to trying to get a qualifying time and or like a lottery token into it, I go down to Austin in the spring to do a 100K bike race. And so the first time, it was my first ever long distance bike race, and it was my first like bike race since the one race I did out here. And then like the 8 years prior to moving out to Colorado, I used to race the New England series. But it was my first like time mountain bike racing again. And it was insane. Like it's 100 kilometers. So that's 62.14 miles or something.
Right.
And so, Austin's a hell of a lot lower elevation. But turns out those locals get to like never really have to stop mountain biking because it doesn't get that cold and they don't deal with snow down there.
Right.
So I once again got my ass kicked, but I beat my buddy who I went down there and I raced with, who's competed and done the Leadville 100. He also races like Xterra series. I went down there and they, at registration, they handed me the wrong number plate. So they had me racing as a 49-year-old male from somewhere in Texas. And so not only did after the first, like at some point during the first lap, I was like, all right, my buddy Travis is going to have beat me. Like, I'm not going to see him again. But then it started to rain and thunder and lightning. So those trail conditions went from being like really decent, and there's not a whole lot of hill climbing, but there's enough. But like, because the trail conditions deteriorated and I had that background, like racing in mud and knowing how to deal with chain suck and just really slimy conditions. Like I didn't know it, but on my second lap, I was slowly gaining on him. And then I caught up with him probably about 7 miles from the start finish line of our second lap, which I didn't know at that time was going to be our last lap. I like saw him through the trees and I was like, hey, Travi. And then I didn't see him for a while. And then all of a sudden I was right next to him. And then I blew by him. I was like, I am like within a mile or 2 miles of finishing. I am putting my head down. I am running through this mud. Like we're getting to that start finish line. So I beat my buddy Travis. Not only did I just like plain out beat his time, but I beat him in his own age group and his own gender and age group.
Nice.
So he was really hoping that unfortunately race got canceled this year. So he was like, he was like, no, you have to come race again because I need my chance for redemption. And I was like, looks like that'll probably happen in November now. So I'm like, I start running a lot, but he does a lot of training. So I'm like, this will be interesting to see what happens.
Well, that's awesome.
But yeah, like,
well,
I miss that community of racing. It's fun.
It's
a lot of great people.
Yeah, the mountain bike and ski community, because I think they're one and the same for the most part. I think it's a super cool,
especially out here.
Yeah, and I think you see it. I mean, in any sport, in anything that's kind of outdoor adventure based, whether it's rock climbing or skiing or snowboarding or mountain biking, it's just a really cool community. And then you have to look that, man, there's a common denominator, and it's everyone's outside.
Outside, yeah.
And that's where the secret is. And that's kind of, again, it goes back to the idea of the character mill, is to get people to get outside, to live life without regrets. So I love the fact that you've hinted on that. So yeah, May, this has been spectacular. Like I said, you were one of the first people that popped into my head of that I wanted to do a podcast with, because I think grit is perfect. I'm so stoked that you came up with that word, because I think that personifies you and what you've been through. Because when you were doing mountain biking in Maine, you were one only, it's not like when you went to the race, there were 400 women,
No.
I'm one of the pioneers that got Maine, mountain biking in Maine, and then you just kind of took it and ran with it. So grit's a perfect word. And I'm so glad that you came up with that story. Cause I wasn't sure what you were going to.
I had a lot, but it was that was really a defining moment for me, getting me back into, like, really pulling me back into the outdoors. Cause I mean, at that time, like, I was in healthcare a lot. So like my mind was in other places. So kind of being pulled into that outdoor community, and away from the medical field a little bit, and just kind of having that out as an outlet too. Like, it was great. It really came at a time when I really needed it. And then I kind of ran with it, So
that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you giving me, a little time today and sharing your story of grit, because I think there's going to be some people out there that will be able to relate to this, and either make a decision to kind of surround themselves with that support system that you talked about, or make a decision that, because maybe they're bogged down with, is this right, is this wrong, and just say screw it.
Just make a choice.
Make a decision, and if you fail, you fail. But again, that's where grit comes in.
The only bad decision is not making one.
Wow. Thank you, May. Thank you, May, for taking the time to sit down with me, share a little bit more about your story, and share your character trait, grit. I think it fits you absolutely perfect. Your story is such an inspiration for so many people, especially young people, just to go chase new dreams and new experiences. The cool part to this is that I did this podcast about 1.5 years ago, and I'm just now getting the conclusion done. And I spoke with May the other day, and she commented that since the podcast, her confidence, for whatever reason, has really started to flourish. And she's getting back into some of the things that she really loved doing, that she had gotten away from, which was racing mountain bikes. And now, watching her social media, it is really fun to see stuff blow up for her with all the races that she's been doing, and now doors are beginning to open. Perfect example of what happens when you go out and you kind of live life a little bit. I want to give a huge shout out to Chad Hollister of ChadMusic.com. He supplies the song for this podcast in the background called Life. Be sure to check him out at ChadMusic.com. And until then, go try new things and start to build your character.